Hello and welcome to India Career Center, the one stop podcast for students, professionals, parents, and guardians. In every episode, we will try to deal with a current topic that needs expert advice related to career, career guidance, and career mentoring. Please welcome your host, Dr. S.P. Mishra, to the show. And happy listening.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode on India Career Center. Today, I'm delighted to invite Miss Shivangi Minar to the show today. She has got many hats to her credit. So, the topic we are talking today is about parenting, and she has written a book. She is co-founded a initiative which she is going to talk about during our conversation. So without further ado, I welcome Shivangi onto the show. Shivangi, thank you so much to be on this show and giving your time for having a conversation with us. Welcome to India Career Center podcast, and I hope to have a lovely conversation and learn a lot from you today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having me here. Thank you so much.
Okay, Shivangi, as always, I ask our guests to speak about their personal journey so far. Want you to take us through your journey for our viewers. So over to you.
So, I think when I was born, I had a plan to take over the world. It literally began with that, and I had a very definitive idea about the future me, and God had other plans, and such was the intensity with which I was living every day, not realizing that sometimes rejection is redirection. So that I think is the theme of my life. Um, and I could sense within myself that maybe this is it, maybe this is life. And I was so ready to resign and check out. But I think there was some divine intervention that happened. And all that that I needed in terms of qualification was to be willing to have that ego bashing. And beautifully, life taught me that. I learned that, I mean, why do we press harder on the remote when we know that the batteries are weak? So that was the biggest learning of my life. That when you are faced with failure, what you term as failure, it is a good idea to just step back and breathe and just sort of recalibrate your entire system and take it easy and not get so attached to the outcome. This sounds very glamorous when I'm talking about it. In real life, it sucked big time. But yeah, I'm on the other end now. So I'm on the other side now. So yes, I can look back at it very fondly and say thank you to God. But yeah, I was a very cranky person back then, that I have to admit. And so somewhere I realized that I'm not this hardcore, logical, left brain person. I realized that I am a soft, empathetic person, but apparently there are no jobs that require qualifications as empathiers, right? So that came as a huge disconnect for me. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I definitely knew that what I had to offer was not what the corporates were looking for. Hence came this need to create my own work, my own company. And if I can talk about Otlo, um, Otlo was perhaps my need to communicate. It was a very simple, I mean, I don't even know why gave myself a name because my work was all about me and it was only listening. And now in this time and age when mental health is all of a sudden it is the topic of conversation everywhere, I realized that I was being prepped for a certain momentum that will now take over the world. So in Gujarat, the extension of the house is known as the veranda of the house is known as Otlo. And you will see a lot of uncles, tinkering with their scooters and aunties cutting vegetables and children playing around. I don't remember who was playing in my veranda. I have no clue. Anybody is welcome and everybody is welcome. And we would all talk as a community. And the beautiful part was one would start a conversation, it would linger around, and then somebody else would pick it up from the other end of the colony. And such was a beautiful ecosystem that got created where everybody had a voice, and yet there was no threat of being not understood. So that is why I named my company Otlo, that it's totally okay if you go out into the world every day, meet new people, explore, experiment, put on your most logical cap and try for world dominion. That's totally okay. But there has to be one time in the day when you come back and you connect with yourself. So Otlo is that bridge between the external and the internal. And Otlo is that place where brilliance comes through communication, interpersonal communication. So yeah, that space of emotional brilliance is Otlo.
That's beautiful. Before we delve deeply into the concept of Otlo, tell us about I mean, you spoke about Gujarat, but I'm sure you have, moved away from Gujarat. So take us through that journey as well, before we come to Otlo again.
And I have never been asked this question before, and it is very relevant to my life story. So thank you for this. Um, I was born in Delhi, and I call it the space of cutthroat competition. And it was when my mother took up VRS that we decided to move to Baroda. And I think overnight my life changed. All of a sudden, a lot of noise entered my life. And when I say noise, it was my egoistic self speaking loudly, not realizing that I was being welcomed into a culture of always being in a space of welcome. Baroda, in fact, Gujarat is is home in so many ways, while not being home for me because I'm a Delhi girl. But the people there are so warm, so sweet, so loving, and they will not think twice before sharing whatever little they have with you. And that was such a huge learning for me. It changed me from inside out. And now that I'm back in Delhi, I miss that flavor in my life. I miss that space of community. I miss people interfering in my life, telling me what I should do with my life. I miss that too. Um, but more than that, it's the way people congregate in times of happiness or sadness that truly, truly holds me together. I miss that. And yeah, yeah, that's where I am.
That's beautiful. So you mentioned about community quite a bit. And in today's time, we are all living in the nuclear families and all those building societies where probably neighbors also don't interact as much. So through this initiative of Otlo, what exactly you're trying to do? I mean, the concept is so beautiful, actually. So can you take us through the thought process of Otlo as well as what exactly you have been doing through this initiative?
Right. So we'll just go quickly a little back in history. In 2020, when COVID hit, everybody was at home. And all of a sudden, all the emotional hassles that had been swept under the carpet for so long were shown the light. All of a sudden, parents realized there is something wrong with my kid. With my own child, it so happened I was passing through her room. The door was closed. And as I was passing by, I heard her crying. And I opened the door, we had a conversation, and I realized that she was being bullied for the longest time.
Oh,
And it was something which I wasn't aware of. And imagine I'm a parenting coach. Yeah. So that's where it erupted. And as I spoke to a lot of children within that time, I realized that every parent comes with a lot of baggage. And thereby began the second level of my journey, preparing the parent to be an authentic parent. And in doing so, I needed to do a deeper dive into how they had been treated in childhood. And that gave the third level to my work, reparenting the inner child. So, literally, it is as good as translating a generational curse. Yeah, and while it is quite empowering, it is a lot of emotionally charged conversations day in and day out. So, the idea behind Otlo, just to answer your question, is I cannot help take care of anyone's baggage. I'm not that strong enough. I can only do a little bit good with mine. But all I want to be is that temporary shelter, saraya, in a vast desert, so that people can come, sit, talk, relax a bit, and then as they talk and share and unburden themselves, they develop the mental clarity within them as to how do I sort out the mess of my life. In those few moments, my only objective is to make them comfortable enough that they start looking at themselves with newer eyes, with a different perspective. That's all. And that is what Otlo is about. It is home. It is home. And there is no judgment here. It's home.
That's beautiful. Shivangi, when you talk about this concept of Otlo, the engagement with the parents or with the children, is such a emotional, as you rightly mentioned it. The conversations are emotionally charged. People have to open up to you to really pour out their emotions. Um, so how do you really reach out to such people? I mean, how do the people know that you are doing something like this, and hence they can come and share with you through your initiative? I mean, what exactly is the process? The reason why I'm asking this is that probably not many people know that people like you are available, who can actually help sorting out a lot of emotional stuff which is inside, and they're not able to pour it out and share with others. So, what is the process you follow?
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, I'm somebody who doesn't believe in promotion, but I also believe that if you have a message, it becomes your duty to spread it like wildfire. So, I do write very regularly on LinkedIn, and therefore I get a lot of inquiries from parents. And it often begins with as simple as, can you help us? Is this what you do? Because most people do not understand what an emotions coach does. So um, all I do is basically listen to the mess they download on the screen. It often is without structure. It's often it goes in circles and circles. And my job is to just hear them out as they share their pain points. And as they do, then we develop a structure, a planned process through which we can ease out those burdens, and all the time aligning ourselves to what our vision for our family is, what our vision is for our partnership with our spouses. So, LinkedIn is one place where I believe that I have been able to reach out to people in a way that is very subtle. Maybe the likes and comments aren't enough, but I do get DMs. I still remember a time when I was writing and I wasn't sure whether I should, because it was quite personal and it put me into a position of it, in fact, did not put me in a position of a coach. It put me in the position of a normal human being. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to be as vulnerable online. But then I got this one DM from a lady, and she said, I'm sitting in my cubicle in my office and I'm crying right now. And I don't know what made you write this, but how did you know this was my story?
Wow.
And I have never questioned myself after that. Never questioned. I feel and I write. So, one, the intention is to support people as much as possible. So, that is doing the trick. LinkedIn is where I make a lot of noise. And there are some clients who feel so rewarded by the inner work that we do together that they make it known to as many as they can. Um, I think there is nothing more organic than word of mouth.
Fantastic.
So,
That's right.
yeah,
But can you
yeah.
take us through at least one or two cases where you had, let's say, a series of conversations, as you rightly mentioned, that there's no structure to it in the initial phase, which is quite understandable actually. But can you take us through at least one example where you started a conversation, let's say about 6 months or 1 year or 2 years ago, and how it went about?
Okay. Um, Without sharing obviously the
Yeah, of course.
details,
Yes, yes.
tell you, let me tell you, um, it always begins with the child.
Okay.
And if I give you a very stereotypical case, it generally begins with मेरे बच्चे को ठीक कर दो. And that's when I know, it's a red flag right out there. So it begins with the child. The child is the scapegoat, and rather, in my words, he's the catalyst for the transformation of the parent. And I always pretend that I will work very sincerely with the child. And in my head, I'm very clear I'm working with the parent. I do work with children too. The best thing with working with children is that they add on to the energy of the room. With parents, I could see, okay, I again think it is a brilliant question because it is making me think at multiple levels. The first stage is resistance.
Yes, I can imagine that.
It's a very solid resistance because I have been doing this for quite some time now, and I can sense within a minute where the pain is. And the more stronger the mask, deeper is the pain. So when I see a parent not smiling enough, or over smiling, or when I see a parent defensive, or when I see them cautious, too guarded, I know in my head that there is a story to unfold. There's a story that needs to be heard. So the first couple of sessions will go in them telling me everything that's wrong with the child. And I dutifully note down everything because, yes, at the end of the day, I want to solve their problem. And then slowly and steadily, they realize that, oh God, she's the advocate for the child. If the child is jumping on the sofa, there's nobody happier than Shivangi. So it gradually, I take them to a space where they realize that it is their own childhood and the pain of their unmet needs which is not allowing them to truly embrace what the child is bringing to the table. There are some very intense moments. Um, there are some times when I'm speaking, there are some times when the client is crying, but we are there present either ways. Um, as naturally, when you're doing this kind of inner work, empathy flows, compassion flows. I'm just an instrument, but the cosmic energy is so created that the parent melts from within. That is a beautiful process, and I'm so glad I get to see it. And as they melt, They begin to see all that they did not receive as a child, and how their child is just showing up a mirror for them to look at the unhealed part of themselves. And as they melt, and as I try and give as much warmth as I can, they become softer versions of themselves. And when that happens, the child reacts very positively. And there are times when I'm working with the child as well. So then there is a dual impact. I still remember one case when um, this was a family of four in Germany, and they were planning to buy a house. The daughter was a teenager, the son was in grade six, and they were planning to buy a house. And before planning the house, the husband wife are discussing, okay, anyways, we have to stay separately. So let's have two washrooms in the new house, and then I will shift. Every single decision that they were taking were based on the fact that we are going to take a divorce.
Wow.
And yeah, yeah. They had planned well in advance where they both individually be in the next 10 years. They had their life mapped out separately. We began work on the child because the child was caught stealing. It graduated to a point where once I spoke with the mother, then I spoke with the father. Then ultimately they came down to India. We met, all four of us. The little boy was playing, but the little girl, the teenager, started crying because I think somewhere the universal love energy made its presence felt. And then I saw the husband wife discussing something. And after I think, yeah, 1.5 hours when they were talking, they were giggling and laughing as if they were fresh out of college. And I was just looking at them, and it was like there was nobody else in the room. It was just the two of them. It was so beautiful to watch. And this is what happens when we thaw from within, when we sort of just let all our insecurities and fears wash down. I can give you n number of examples, cases of divorce, cases of singlehood, regular families looking so perfect on the outside and so broken and shattered on the inside. And the process of alchemy is such that when one starts vibrating at a higher frequency, I think the rest of the family just sort of aligns. And how beautiful that the child is at the forefront of the discussion. And then that child turns around back and becomes the beneficiary. It's a very beautiful process that happens. So, n number of cases like that.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So basically, what you're saying is that through the process of conversation and your inner uh, engineering process, you're basically trying to rekindle the past and probably help the client to uh, let go of the past. What exactly you're trying to do with that?
Let go is a very huge word. Many of them can't, and I don't want any listener to feel disheartened at the thought of letting go because it's a huge deal. But yeah, definitely rekindle the past and heal that aspect of themselves which did not get what they wanted at that time. And there are various ways to do that. But I think in this fast track life, we don't even sit and think what we missed yesterday.
Hmm.
Maybe I had a fight with my husband yesterday. I wouldn't sit and mull over it today. I wouldn't process it today. But I think after 7 years, I might just decide, okay, enough is enough. So there is this pressure cooker analogy which I use a lot, that we often let things, uh, you know, s-
Simmer.
just simmer for the longest time before we take action. So this couple had never had therapy in the last 20 days, just 20 years, just one day, and that too 15 minutes each. The marriage counselor said, "You're both nice people. I wonder where's the problem." There is no problem. And they never went back to therapy again. And such is the beauty of life that um, you have no option. The universe will corner you if you do not face what is needed to be looked at carefully. So the universe will put you in such an uncomfortable position. All of a sudden, you're saying, okay, whatever I had, I have applied to solve this problem, but yet this problem is growing bigger every moment. So definitely, there has to be some other source of energy that needs to be channelized here. And that's when they start looking for questions, for answers. And that's where I come in. Yeah.
So, do you think that with families becoming smaller, nuclearization of family, and we are not staying anymore with and bigger enlarged families, so the need for therapy is actually increasing because of that. I mean, probably in the olden days, when people were staying in combined families, there was somebody to listen to somebody. If your parents are not listening to you, probably your grandparents are, or your uncle or aunts are doing it. But in today's time, probably you're just four of you. You're two couple, probably a couple and couple of children, and nobody else to share or talk. And is that the reason why therapy uh, need for therapy is increasing?
Yeah. Okay. Again, where are you getting your questions from?
As I converse, I think a lot of it coming.
Yeah, yeah. Again, very relevant. Um, we are going with the assumption that in a joint family, everybody's trying to evolve. Everybody's on that path of self-liberation. And whereas in many families, such is not the case. Not everyone is blessed with that gift of self-analysis and self-introspection. In a joint family, definitely the energies are scattered because there's lots to do and not enough hands to do it. But yet, at the end of the day, the focus areas are pretty much the academics of the child, the extracurricular, and the sports. These are the three main focus areas. Definitely, we are not talking to our children as much as one would find company in a joint family. There is definitely more exposure, but to say the least, the mothers are definitely a little less burdened with the day to day. So there is definitely a scope for being a listening ear to the child. And if I go by what you presented, a thought, a visualization of a family, a joint family, where everyone is working on their issues, and there is a very strong, spiritually mature soul who is the head of the family, the glue to the family. In that case, it can be a very beautiful, magnificent affair. Yes. Yes. If there's somebody who can just sort of soften up the rough edges, yeah, I think that would be marvelous. It requires a lot, there's generally a lot of personal cost involved in creating that kind of a persona. But yeah, truly blessed if there's somebody at the helm of affairs like that.
Fantastic. I think this is getting very interesting. We take a short break and join you back again.
Sure.
So join
Sure.
us after the break. Okay, welcome back once again. We are having a conversation with Shivangi, and it is getting interesting as we go along. Shivangi, welcome back. I mean, this is something which I had not planned to ask you, but I remember that you're doing a lot of work with single parents nowadays. Is there any particular reason for this?
Okay. Um, One, as we all know, parenting is very overwhelming, even with two parents, right? Um, I see it as the play of the masculine and the feminine energies, right?
Okay.
Not necessarily that the father is a masculine, but there is always a parent who is much more driven, much more logical, much more structured in their approach to parenting. Somebody who follows the do's and don'ts. And then there is one parent who, the other parent who's probably much more lenient, always giving leeway, supportive, nurturing, very kind. So I see this as an interplay of the divine masculine and feminine energies. Nowadays, women have become very independent financially, and they have now become very conscious, and no longer do they stay in sad, bad marriages. So they have the ego strength to step out of a bad relationship and charter their own way for themselves. Yet, parenting is not a single person's job, not because they can't handle it or they don't have the competency, because parenting in itself is very overwhelming. And a spouse is generally like a soundboard. Every time I yell at my child, I have a soft tap on my shoulder asking, okay, was that really needed? And that is how you anchor back in your parenting over and over again. With a single parent, not only are you faced with the heavy duty decisions, also, it is also the day to day routine of parenting which can become very overwhelming, very, very strong in its demands. So that's where I feel a lot of parents need support. Um, you won't believe the number of times I've had calls where people just ask me, okay, am I doing the right thing? And I say, yeah, you're fine. And they're like, are you sure? Am I right? Am I right? And I say, yes, you're good. You're good. You're a good parent. That's enough. Now don't overdo it. Now don't spoil it, but you're doing fine. It's because we do not have any structured framework. I do not know if I'm a good enough parent or not. And that is why we need a soundboard. And in the absence of a spouse, a coach can be a good support system to help drive that. And also, for many people, the priorities change. So, for taken a stereotype, a working mom who takes a divorce, her ultimate priority is now her child and her work. That is all that she wants to invest in. So, if she's doing parenting, she might as well do a good job. And that's where she seeks expert help. And the best part is she can afford it too, in terms of time and in terms of money. So that's where this wave has come about. And the best part is that I see a lot of receptivity to learn, to grow, to feel challenged. And many a times it comes as मेरे साथ बचपन में ये हुआ, but I'm not sure if I should continue this. And I think that is beautiful. That awareness is mind blowing. That gap between thinking and doing, I think that's very powerful. So yeah, very
Okay.
enchanted by single people these days.
Okay. Excellent. One uh, question which again I never thought, but this is something comes about while listening to your conversation. Uh, so, so if you have a headache, you know you have to take a pill and that takes care of. If you have a fever, you take a pill and takes care of. But how somebody will know when to go to you to actually get a help?
Oh wow.
What's the trigger actually?
I'm making you my PR agent next. When there is a lack of ease, when there is heaviness, when there is a blockage, when you're anxious, angry, tired, but you don't know how to label it. So, to make it easy, when you start feeling heavy, when getting up in the morning is a chore, when nothing feels right, when smiling becomes a task, that's when you feel you need to go to see a coach. And I think if you cannot laugh 3 times a day, I'm talking about a full belly laugh, तो फिर ऐसे जीने का क्या ही फायदा? So might as well take the help of a support person around you who's happy to help.
And how do you differentiate yourself from a therapist, for example? I mean, there are psychological therapists, there are psychiatrists. So how do you differentiate yourself from them?
Right. So two aspects. Though I'm already a psychologist, but how I would define it as this. One, I see myself as a coach. So I feel that our psyche are like these dark, huge landscapes. And while one would want everyone to get to have the freedom to traverse freely and come to their own decision making, sometimes being directive helps. So, in terms of emotional first aid, I'm pretty directive. Okay, these are the five things you need to do. I remember this case of a lady staying in a joint family. She had a full 9 to 5 job, and she would get up at 6 in the morning, cook for the whole family, of course, with support of other people. And again, when she would come at 5, she would drop her bag, remove her shoes, wash her hands, and get into the kitchen. And where she would be till 10 in the night to compensate for her absence the whole day. And I still remember being so stunned by her routine. And I said, listen, we have to find a way out. And we literally began with her putting her shoes away, washing her hand. And I said, okay, now you have 5 seconds. You will wash your face with cold water, and this is your self care ritual beginning now. And from there, she's graduated to a much more calmer space now. But this is literally the base of her self love, I would say. So coming back to the question, what was the question?
The question is,
Yeah,
how do you differentiate? I mean, if
yeah.
I am a patient, I am looking for support emotionally. So should I go to a psychiatrist? Should I go to a psychologist, or should I go to somebody like
Right.
you who is
Yeah,
like an emotion coach?
yeah. So coming back to the same point, one, I believe psychologists give you an open space and you come to your own conclusion. But a coach is somebody who is slightly more directive and thus can give you steps one, two, three. So you feel immediate relief. And plus, my life story has been such. I lost my father when I was just 5. Then CA happened, or rather, didn't happen for quite a number of years. And in that, I believe in order to heal myself, I had to be empathetic to myself. So now being compassionate towards others comes very naturally to me. So even though that process of unfolding has to be done by the client themselves, all I can do is being a warm, supportive, and some be a cheerleader and say, "Come on, you got this. You can do this." A psychologist, in comparison, would have to needs to be a little more clinical, and a psychiatrist is somebody who can prescribe medicines to make you feel better. But an emotions coach, why is it different? Is because while it is empathetic and supportive, it has a directive element to it as well. So yeah.
So at some point of time, do you also suggest that a client of yours who is coming to you to talk, while you take care of the emotion part of it, but you realize that some amount of medical support is also probably required. Do you come across something like this as well in your case?
Yes, yes. So, one, if I ever feel that this person is in the space of self-harm,
Oh,
then I do not take any chances at all. And not only do I alert the family, I also reach out to my supervisors, my seniors for support, and one of them includes a psychiatrist as well. So we don't take chances. Mm, but the beauty about human nature is the minute I know someone is willing to listen to my life story, it's like the pressure valve is switched off. Now I'm at peace. I'm feeling safe already. And there are a lot of steps which one can take in conjunction with another psychiatrist or psychologist as well. So there can be multiple levels of healing happening for the same person at the same time. And yeah, I believe I believe um, every individual has their own style of processing their pain. It is more of finding your match rather than finding what stream works for you. So it is more about what aligns to you as a person. If there is somebody who needs structure, I may not be the best person for that. But if it is somebody who wants just a listening ear, maybe a psychologist would be a better bet. So this is how I see it. Can be a very beautiful interplay of professional support.
Fantastic. No, that's very good to know because these are basics which probably not many of our audience will know about it. So good that you clarified about it. Thank you so much for that. So moving on now, Shivangi, can you tell us about your book? The title of book is so interesting. So talk us through your book. It's
Yeah.
very interesting.
So I have to share a little bit about myself. I started writing in LinkedIn around 2, 3 years ago, and nobody used to like my post. Nobody. So every morning I would write just in time so that while my husband was having his breakfast, I could steal his phone and like my post. And I did it for quite some time, and God bless him, he never complained. Um, there were
You're
times when I
still a
gave up.
child. You're still a child.
Yes, thank you. I'll take it like a compliment.
Yes,
And
yes, of course.
and I was so ready to throw in the towel every single time. I swear, because I did not have a community coming from. This was a transition from a CA background to a background in psychology, and I did not know anyone. And I still get a lot of, we read your posts, we just don't like it, and I'm now okay with it. But there was this time when I was so ready to give up, and clinically, my husband would say, "Okay, write, and don't complain, just write." This was never, I never thought this book would come up. There was no book for me. And then, kindly enough, one of my LinkedIn family members, Samira, she's a publisher, she just called up and she said, "Why don't you make this a book?" And I thought, oh, writing a book is so simple because the content is done. So I'll just give her the dump and I'll be free. Apparently, it doesn't work like that. There has to be edits and re-edits and then re-edits. And frankly, I'm so bored of reading my own book now. So now I hope other people will read it. This is my book, Parenting Pickles and Popsicles. And I've I've tried really hard to just be a very vulnerable parent in this. This book has not been written from the space of being a coach. No, it's not written from a space of power. The message is very clear. Your life sucks, mine did too, but you'll survive, as did I. It's as simple as that. It is
You
just a
know,
bunch of anecdotes.
yeah, if you're feeling weak, you're feeling tired, or you're feeling down, then probably the next best thing is round the corner.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe a popsicle.
Yeah.
So this book was just written with that thought in mind कि कहीं कोई parent थका हारा परेशान बेचारा सोफे पे बैठा है and they pick up this book and they say, okay, my life can't be worse than hers. So just a bunch of anecdotes from my life, from my client's life, a lot of learnings and a lot of questions, a lot of questions. And the idea was, if I can give comfort, even a moment's comfort to a tired, exhausted parent sitting somewhere, it's worth it. It's just worth it.
Fantastic. Yeah, we'll share those details on the show notes also. Um, so you would like to bring out the next series of book as well on this?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm going to sit with that question for a while.
So you have not thought about it?
Uh, just like this one, maybe if that comes, it'll be a surprise to me too. I'll be like,
Okay,
really?
okay. Maybe this question will trigger the thought.
Maybe, yes, absolutely. Quite possible. Quite possible.
Okay, that's fantastic. So great. Shivangi, so would you like to share something which probably we didn't cover so far in this conversation, where somebody is looking for support, or support or your services as a coach? So would you like to share something which the audience can actually assimilate and reach out
Okay,
to you?
sure. Thank you for this question. Let's go back 10, 20, 30, 40 years, right? um, मम्मी ने गुस्से से बोल दिया, पापा ने सिर्फ दूर से देखा, टीचर ने बेंच पे खड़ा करा दिया. These were scars on our heart. And while we have traversed further in time, whatever we felt during that time did not just dissolve into thin air. It was part of etheric debris, and it went and sat inside our psyche as a dark space. And now that when we want to really fly in life and we want to be in the limelight and we want to be just super achievers, something stops us. We might get on the podium and we might just lose our voice. There are times when we need to create boundaries and we start shivering and shaking. There are times when we know something around us is not right and we still lack the courage to execute a change. This is that dormant stuff speaking up. And there is no other way than to sit with this heavy stuff, to sit with these mucky feelings, to look at them in the heart, in the face, and say, I see you. I acknowledge whatever mess happened with me. And then to be comfortable with that discomfort, to marry the mess. I think that if one can achieve true liberation, true emotional brilliance will happen. You will be so safe and comfortable in any situation. And then you will be really just, it will be just a matter of effort equal to success. And there will be no baggage just pushing, pulling you down. So I wish this for everyone.
That's very lovely, very lovely. I'm sure a lot of people, uh, fortunately, because of the social media platforms, I think information is actually passing on quite fast, and people can reach out to people like you who are resourceful, who can help, and in the process, as you mentioned, you can rekindle some of the past and heal the past. I think that's so lovely. As a concept, I really loved what you're doing. So, thank you for your time, Shivangi, today. Had a lovely conversation and
Thank you. But in before we sign out, I would just like to know a little bit about you,
Mhm.
the work that you do. So I mean on the personal front and the professional front, and a little bit about India Career Center. And my next question after that would be, how can a young individual take your support? What is the most efficient way for anyone to reach you, and how do you help them?
Okay, I mean, just to talk about briefly about myself. Little over two decades of work in the professional background. I worked in a completely different industry like you. I come from a construction equipment background for a little over 2 decades. Around 2021, in fact, much before that, around 2018, that was the time when my mother became sick. We got to know that she has, got the third stage of cancer, and the treatment started. And probably uh, the journey of learning about myself, about life in a philosophical manner, all that started. And finally, we lost her in 2020, late 2020. And by that time, I think I had realized that the life has to be a little more purposeful rather than just if I continue to work for another decade or so. I could have done that and continued with the professional career, but probably the higher purpose in life will be missing. So the reason why I took up my own initiative of India Career Center and other initiatives is to be able to work on my higher purpose of life, and that's how the, the journey started, and that's how I started. Uh, and one of the things which I realized is that if I have acquired some knowledge of my own professional career and how I can give it back. And the audience, of course, is the young people of India and their parents who need the right kind of guidance in terms of what to choose, what kind of careers to look for, and things like that. And so, in the process, I got myself certified as a career coach, career mentor coach for students and professionals, and started the India Career Center. The story behind the podcast is basically the objective was if I can, through the podcast, reach out to more people like you, for example. Uh, we have done about 61 episodes so far, which means that 61 different speakers have come onto this podcast to speak about their area of expertise, which is a great way to acquire knowledge for myself and probably for also for the audience who are my target audience. Uh, and that keeps my intellectual inquisitiveness alive, and my learning ability actually remains intact. So that's how the podcast I've been doing for last little over 2 years now. And and then to make the writing part of जो writing वाला कीड़ा है, like how you have been writing, I have been also very fond of reading and writing, and that's how I kept writing different blogs and articles, and then thought why not actually put together into kind of a book, and that's how the book was released early this year. It's called What They Don't Teach in School. So basically, again, for young students, rather for parents who have alpha, I mean the Gen Alpha, Gen Z kids, because the careers of 2030 and beyond are very different from what we have seen so far. Probably many of the jobs are not even invented so far. So I thought, why not actually talk about things which probably the schools don't teach us at all right now. And those are the things which I try to put together in a book, and hopefully some of it is beneficial to people who have gone through that. And there's been a decent amount of traction and good reviews on the Amazon, which I feel then some of them have got benefit out of. As far as reaching out, I think today's world, we are all accessible digitally, so people can visit my LinkedIn profile or the website or the other social media platforms. Through that they can reach out to me. And fortunately, so far I've been able to counsel students from various parts of India, across India, as well as outside India as well. Indians who have lived outside, but they needed some support in terms of the career choice and some of the admission services which we also offer for people who want to take up higher studies outside India. So those are the things which I have been doing. And most of the time, actually, I'm busy talking to people like you. I mean, which is what I enjoy doing actually. And rest of it is the basic work which keeps me busy nowadays. That's broadly about me. On the family front, we are based in Hyderabad. I mean, my immediate family is based in Hyderabad. I belong to Orissa. I come from a place called Berhampur in southern coastal Orissa, and we have been living in Hyderabad for a little over 11 years now. Uh, we got two children. The son is in his first year of course. It's called FDDI, the Footwear Design and Development Institution. There he's doing a 4 year design course, and daughter is in her 12th grade now. And my wife is a professional Kathak dancer. She runs her own institution here in Hyderabad. And yeah, that's broadly about myself.
Wow. Super achievers, all of them,
Yeah, I'm the least creative at home.
huh? You just told me it is a 10, 12-hour job to create this podcast or any podcast, to produce it from start to finish. There cannot be anyone as creative as you are, really. So, yeah, that credit we'll have to give it to you, and we'll give it to
Yeah,
you willingly.
I guess that's it. Shivangi, thank you. I think you actually are a fantastic sound coach. And no wonder you're excelling in what you're doing. Um, so people love to talk to you. That's how it is. So thank you for your time, and I hope our conversation reach out to people who might actually need your professional help. I sincerely wish they can reach out to you. We'll share all your details as how they can reach out to you, and also they can pick up your book from Amazon and other places. It's a lovely book. I would recommend highly to read. Thank you for your time, and it's an absolute pleasure to talk to you today.
It's an honor to be here, and I loved your questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed this episode. We sincerely wish you could take something from our conversation today and be able to apply it to your life in a positive way. We value your feedback. This can help us improve our future episodes. So share your thoughts to serve you better. If you want us to focus on a topic which you think is of importance, let us know. We will share our expertise in future episodes. So, see you soon with a new topic and help you in your career journey.